Hello, this is Athena Jezik. I have a very special model for you today, and I hope you enjoy watching the work on this little dog that has a disc issue. And the dog's name is Gogi. So here I'm getting to know the dog and talking a little bit, making sure the dog's comfortable with me. And then as I got control of her and she was okay, she trusts me, I began to go down her spine. Now this is very light because I'm feeling for certain things in the spine, certain alignment processes, and she's still a little bit nervous at first. So I hold her in a way that has her feel comfortable and let her move somewhat as she needs to. She knows her owner is there, so she's got to get comfortable with all of that. And I just kind of wait on her and see what's coming next. So I have worked on about 4 animals in the 35 years that I've been there. They're small animals. I've worked on a couple of dogs and a couple of cats. The first dog I worked on was a big dog, and it had some bowel problems, and after doing some of the subtle work with the spine, it didn't have bowel problems the next day. I got a report that everything seemed fine. I told my client that yes, I'd see her and we'd just see what we could do. So she brought the dog in, and I wanted to share this with you. Karina was able to come over and film it, so it worked out really well. We got consent from the dog owner, and so I hope you enjoy this. This is also something that is going to be taught in the course of subtle anatomy. So I want you to understand that this subtle anatomy thing, it doesn't have to be just for people. It can also be worked on animals, dogs. It probably can be worked on horses too, but they're pretty big animals, and there is horse cranial sacral therapy that's being done. There's courses in it at the Upledger Institute. So I know that can work, so I just applied it to this little dog, and the results were very good. So just watch what I'm doing, and I will explain a little bit of what is going on as we progress. So I'm finally able to begin to go down the vertebrae in a little bit different way than I started, to check for the alignment or if there's any misplaced vertebrae. This is working with less than 5 grams of pressure, so it's less than the weight of a nickel, because this is a little dog and you don't have to do a whole lot. I am also using energy to go into the body, so it's not only light pressure, but there's also a force of energy going with it, and I seem to have found the spot. And she also said that the owner also said that the dog was having a little bit of trouble with his bowels, and the place of where this misalignment is I don't really know dog anatomy, but it does seem to be reasonable that is where the nerves would be interjecting into the organs, the bowel organs. So once I get a hold of that, then I have to do the technique to get into there and be able to allow that to begin to make the changes that it needs. So it's time consuming, and it has to be done slowly. But under my hands at this point, I'm feeling a lot of movement. You can tell by the way the dog's moving, it's also feeling movement. It's getting more relaxed as things go, continue to correct. She's got her eye on her master to make sure that she's there. It almost looks like she's getting a little tired, which is good. She's getting very relaxed. So I'm just taking care of that. I'm holding the area and allowing some movement to take place, which the dog seems to be enjoying. It's not moving in other places and not fighting anything. Its ears are up. It's very alert. And I'm sure the animal is feeling a lot of things going on, because animals are so much more tuned in to their body than humans. They don't have a lot of thought process nagging at them over and over. So they get into their work much quicker than human beings as a general rule. Unless there's been a lot of trauma with the dog, I imagine that would take a little more time. And so I just go down to find anything that doesn't feel quite right. There was a little bit of swelling in the area that was the most traumatized, but that was just a small little area. And the dog is just kind of looking around. It's really nice because we had the camera and everything set up before the dog came in, so it wasn't like a lot of rumble and moving around with the dog in. So the dog just figured that was what was in the room, and that was really nice. So the owner's just got her hands out in case the dog wants to, lick her hands or anything, but she also is probably sending the dog energy. She's tuned in that way, so she's probably sending the dog some energy, and she's making sure that the dog is going to be okay with me working at its back. And we're just feeling in to the spots. Now the dog is beginning to feel some change. It's looking around. Sometimes that changes that happen with subtle anatomy it's kind of abrupt in a way, funny feelings in different parts of the body. So some of that movement might be there. Take a look at the dog's eyes now. You can see that the dog is really not feeling up to par quite yet, but it's trusting. And now it stood up for me, which means that it's saying, okay, I know what you're doing. Now it's going to move around and sit back down. You never know. There was a lot of movement that happened in that spot, so that's probably why she sat down again and then stood up. She realizes that this is helping her. I'm quite sure that she is that tuned in. And so here I am, just holding the area, following the motion of it, and allowing things to correct. Just taking care of holding the dog very gently. I'm not holding with a lot of force. The dog has room to move if she wants to, and if she wanted to move away from my hands, I would of course drop them and let her move the way she needs to. Her ears are changing a little bit, so her attention seems to be going to possibly different feelings inside her body. She suddenly doesn't feel quite as perky. She didn't feel perky at all when she came in. And you just have to hold that. I just have to hold that for a while, and after a while it shows that there's little other areas where that particular spot is the most traumatized, that there's a little bit more effect up the spine a little farther. It's not a real bad situation. The dog was not stretching, and the dog was not walking very well and just wanted to be in its bed. So that's how the owner knew that the dog was not quite up to par. Apparently the dog was running around with the outside real fast and bumped into something. At least I think that's what the story was. But that doesn't really matter. What matters is that you just find where that impact point was and work from there. So the dog is kind of letting us do the work and seeming to be okay with it. Now her tongue starts licking out, and yawning. That yawn is a release. And the licking is that something is going on. I think that she's feeling better. We'll see how it goes. And she's wiggling a little bit, wanting to move around, lay down. She's got that mouth moving. I don't really know dog language, But she's starting to lick her owner, and the owner was saying that's her way of saying thank you. So I guess the dog is definitely feeling different. Its ears are, I don't know what that ear level is all about. You just keep watching those eyes. You'll see the eyes change. You'll see the facial structure of the happiness of the dog. So when I get up to the head part, here I'm checking for the ribs, and then I will do a sacral. I need to get into a dural stretch, but I'm not quite there yet. But there I'm just checking the ribs, the stability of the ribs as this continues to correct down there in the vertebrae. The dog is really a gentle dog. It's a very sweet dog. It was very pleasurable to work on. And it just checking everything. This is where, the work of this kind of work, you just have to be real patient with it and just be with it right there in that space. Just be there now. Now here, even though my hand is on her back like that, it looks like there's nothing being done, but I am applying a little bit of a stretch of the dural tube toward the head to give it a lengthening with the two hands. And my fingers are placed between the vertebrae in a particular way. I wasn't able to really get to the base of the skull yet. The dog looks like it's getting kind of tired, more sleepy, and that's a good sign because it's very relaxed and tissues are reorganizing, so there's a lot of work that the dog is doing inside of their body. In fact, the owner said that she slept a long time after we got home. Something caught her attention. You can see her eyes look a little bit brighter now. She still doesn't look like she's totally out of it, but she does, to me anyway, she looks like her eyes are a little bit brighter and she's a little bit more, I don't know, hard to say. And there's that tongue again. She's laying down, resting. That's a very good sign to see because she's totally, in fact, her eyes are kind of having a hard time staying open. So she's trying to stay with it. She's doing really, really good. She knows that there's some changes happening, and I'm sure that she's feeling better as this is going on. And again, I have said this a little bit earlier, that, cats don't have a lot of thought process going on with all this. It's just what they're doing right now. So the dogs and cats can correct better than people in a lot of ways. That's where the training for people has to be. They have to connect in with their body and just allow things to happen, which is going to be taught in the course. But animals will tend to, they know if you're going to help you kind of at an intuitive level, they know they're going to be helped. They will allow that to happen. So there's another little stretch going on. And the little eyes are, she really doesn't want to go to sleep, but she's resting really well. Sometimes she'll let out a little bit of a deep breathe, which is a release. If she yawns, that's a release. And she's doing quite well. It seems really tedious. It seems like I'm not doing anything, but there's actually quite a bit of work. Now here, because of the position of the dog, I'm going to try to work on her head and check the cranial bones, just kind of the whole vault of the bones, and work that with whatever's going on with the spine. Make sure that the head is on there properly, that hasn't been bumped to the side. Now, animals, I've noticed, even with my own cats when I've done this, when they start to feel the bones in their head, they don't like it. It feels really weird to them. So I move my hands down to be able to try to get into a stretch, but from the base of the skull, but she's not quite ready for that. So just take my time and continue to work down there at the lower vertebrae. And that's all looking pretty good. Her master is comforting her, because she's not really distressed or anything, but you can tell that she's going through some kind of a shift. The ears are way down. So there's something going on that she's feeling. It may be a little uncomfortable for her, because that's what happens when the tissues start to reorganize. But it's not enough of a trauma on her that's causing any pain. It's probably something that she's not familiar with. So we just keep on comforting her, and for her to know that her master is there. She's got her hand on her paw and on her head. It keeps the dog feeling trustworthy, trusting, and safe. And the eyes look a little bit brighter. If you can see that. It's very subtle. All this work is very subtle. You have to get different eyes to be able to see. So she's just, and the master isn't interfering with anything. She's very, very gently just letting her know with the touch, because the touch is so important, that everything is fine. Now she's starting to feel a little bit different. She's starting to move around a little more. Going down that spine again. Ooh, not so sure. Here we go, down it again. And now she's getting a little bit more movable. She's moving around a lot more. And the feeling that I'm having is that it's almost completely back into the proper position. It just takes, like I say, it just takes time. Very, very light pressure, and the throwing of the energy in there helps it to move as well. That's another technique to be done. You have to be able to regulate the energy. You can either put a strong push of the energy in, or neutral, or you can pull energy out. So parts of that I'm working, so there's times when it's the physical is a little bit more tight, that I will be more in neutral or pull energy away. And then when things start moving, I tend to put the energy a little bit stronger into the position, into the area. The dog is actually getting kind of tired right here, because there's so many changes and so much tissue reorganization. It does tire animals out, and people on the table, a lot of times, if they tune into their body, they do go deeply into sleep. So that's one of the things that's important for us to begin to understand as people that are going to do this work, that you want that relaxed state. You want them to get there, because then the body can do so much more work. And our bodies do matter. There's some thought forms that think that the body is just out there and we don't have to pay attention to it. But the body is actually what connects us with, when the body is well functioning, it's going to connect us with these other capacities that we have, our intuition and other things like that. So it's important to learn how to be in touch with your body. Now, she started to dig, and her master said that's when she's happier. But we'll see how this goes. We're almost there. We're just getting really close. There she goes, and she's digging now. So that, her master said, that's a really good sign. When she digs like that, she's saying thank you. That's what her master said. That's her thank you, to dig. And now I'm just finish. It's so close. It's so close, but I want to make sure it's thorough and make sure that it's all there. Just take the time to do it and keep holding and concentrating and focusing on what's being done. There she felt another shift. The dog felt another shift. Kind of looked like, help me, make sure I'm okay. Though that was another pretty big shift there. It kind of does happens in layers, and you just have to wait for the body to do it. It slows the pace down. It makes us as therapists of this subtle work, it kind of forces us into being just being right here now and not thinking about the time. Although if you have a time limit, you do have to pay attention to that, but you don't really worry about it. You do the best you can in the time you had. And we just keep working, and I'm checking everything else, checking all the parts. This is with less than 5 grams of pressure. And she did say that she thought there were some bowel issues, so I'm checking all of that to see if there's anything that feels in the anatomy that it's not quite in place. And I was really surprised to do this because I just don't have a lot of experience with animals, and this was an extremely well-mannered dog to work with. Cats are a little more trouble, and the big dogs are just, you got to do them on the floor, and they just kind of flop all over the place. But, we need to love our animals, and we need to do what's best for our animals, and unfortunately, the veterinarian system is more designed after Western medicine, and the owner didn't want to take the dog for surgery or anything like that, and that's why she brought her to me to see if we could do anything without surgery. So now the dog is bending in ways that it had trouble bending. It's, taking a little bath there, chewing on its leg. And that's a good sign, because the pain that was experiencing she was experiencing with movement is, it's going away, because otherwise she wouldn't be like curling around and doing all that. The owner keeps me informed that this is better movement than she was the previous day after she had the accident. So she's really starting to get right there. And just keep going down that spine. I just keep going down that spine. And the dog is stretched out. It's funny, look at how her chin is out there. So she's actually working with me. She's stretched out more. Her spine is nice and straight. She's not fighting me at all. So the dog is definitely working with me now. The dog has developed a lot of trust, and the dog, I believe, understands what's been going on, that it's being helped, and in its own way, telling us that it appreciates it. Now my fingers are holding the kind of the sacral area. I'm using more and anatomical terms that I don't know the dog skeleton that well, but I'm at the end of the spine, and that's where the stretch is happening in order to get that dural tube elongated enough to slip that disc right back into place. And there's a little jump. That was a release. That was a tension point where you saw. That was where something was hung up in the fascial structures. And it released, which is going to give a lot more comfort to the dog. So anytime you see things jump and jerk around, even with people or anything, that's always a good sign. Oh, and there's a stretch. Now that is a sign that she is absolutely changed, because the master said she was unable to stretch like that. So now she did that downward dog pose, and that is a very good sign that we're just about done with this. She's stretched, and she's stretching again, and she's saying thank you, and she's like, okay, I think we're just about done here. Those two things surprised the owner of this little dog, Gogi. I should be calling it her name. She did tell me that was a very good sign, those stretches. The day before, she was pretty much just staying in her bed, not even wanting to eat very much, because I guess there was probably quite a bit of pain with that. I mean, we don't really know, but you can put reason to it. And now she's ready to go. She's going to be going around. Another time she's pointing in a different direction. So I'm trying to get to that base of that skull, but she doesn't like that. Okay, she's going to let me get to the base of the skull. Now I can do a stretch from both sides and make sure that there's an elongation. She does not like that by her head. Animals just really don't like that. Oftentimes they don't like you dealing with around their tail either. But she's getting close. About this time, the owner was very, very happy. She was very excited to see her dog coming back. Notice the eyes? They look a little bit brighter now. She looks a little bit happier. She's licking. She's got her foot up in the air. So this is stuff that she couldn't do the previous day. And now she's thanking her owner by licks on the hand. There's so much communication that they do. And we just keep working. And she's almost looking a little tired. As I had mentioned, she slept a long time when she went home. And that's a good thing. People oftentimes need to do that too, because that's tissue reorganization. But now she's feeling good enough to take care of little itches and scratches on her own arms. And it looks like she's just, feeling better. It's just hard to say what they're actually thinking, if they're even thinking. But I think there's actually an intuitive sense to animals. I think they really have this intuitive sense when they're around people, that people are either good people or bad people. And the love of people with their animals is so precious. We should try to be that way with other people, but it's kind of hard with some of them out there. So we can just love our animals and take good care of them. And there we go. I think she's just about done. I'm just petting her here. I'm reassuring her that everything's fine. And her master, as you see, she's petting her too. So the dog is very happy. It's almost time for her to probably go. We just kind of sit and let her process a little bit and reassure her with just pets, just really nice pets, that, she did a good job. She's a good little dog. She's really cute. She's really sweet. Okay, now she's going in for another stretch. Oh, a big stretch. And I kind of pull her tail a little bit. I didn't really pull her tail, but I lengthened her tail. And she's saying, that's it. That's it. Thank you. She's all done. She's done. She doesn't need it anymore. Mama feels her. She's all active now. She's like ready to go. She's saying thank you. She's so cute. So, and of course the owner is so happy. She feels so happy. She's watched her change from being very lethargic to back to getting to her own place. I did tell her to be careful not to let her be too rambunctious, if possible, because there's some tissue reorganization. So she's back. She's ready to go. She's all done. She's ready to go. And so with that, I have to say that was a really good experience for me. I'm so happy that Karina was able to come and film that. And I hope that you enjoyed watching this. And I want you to know that this is the kind of work that I'm going to be teaching in my course that you can do for people. It's a little bit different because there's emotional levels in people, but it's a beginning to let you know if you are a veterinarian or you work with animals or something, you can also apply these techniques to animals as well. So thank you for viewing. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you later. I want to invite you to explore my course, The Foundations of Subtle Alignment. It is going to take you beyond the work of massage therapy. It will take you into the world of the subtle anatomy. Misalignment of the subtle structures is often the root cause of chronic pain, injuries, and chronically high levels of stress hormones. These techniques offer profound benefit whether you are working on people with complex issues or not. In this course, you will learn about the subtle anatomy and a protocol for assessing and aligning the subtle structures.